I feel like that's how everything is, though. You just got to put in if it's not 10,000 hours, you just got to be consistent with it. That's literally what it is. It's just getting reps at something over and over and over until finally it becomes muscle memory.
What was that culture shock from Occidental then transitioning to Utah? Because you'd grown up here, you wanted to come back, obviously.
Yeah.
But you had the ability to go play 2 sports at Occidental.
Yep.
Wanted to follow in the light of Barack Obama to attend Knight University.
Yeah.
College, I should say.
Yes.
You guys have that weird difference.
There's distinction. It's university versus college.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I actually didn't even know that Barack Obama went there until I got there. And it's on all their pamphlets. I mean, he went there for 1 year. He went there for 1 year in, like, sometime in the 1970s or 80s or something, and then transferred. But they have him on all their pamphlets, their brochures, like Barack Obama went here, Barack Obama went here, Barack Obama went here. So once I found that out, that's what I tell people whenever I tell them I went to Oxy, because nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
It's just this little school north of L.A. But, yeah, it was a culture shock going there, and then it was also a culture shock coming back. Like, all the things I didn't realize about Utah growing up here. When you leave and then come back, you kind of go, oh, man, there is kind of a distinct culture. You don't recognize it when you're in it, but when you come back, you go, man, this is kind of a weird place.
Yeah. The only reason I know about Occidental was because that was a school that I was potentially going to attend to play golf.
Play a little golf?
Play a little golf down there in California, Div 3, be a GPA booster, Didn't happen in any case, either way.
Why didn't you go?
I wasn't good enough, man.
Yeah, you probably, dude. They did have a good golf team, actually. To be fair.
Yeah, and it was expensive.
Way expensive,
right?
Yes.
And coming from Canada, I'm paying an extra 30%, so that was just not an option, and I wasn't getting a good enough scholarship. But Barack Obama to Occidental College is the equivalent of Kyle Dubas with Brock's sport management program.
Yeah,
he the Toronto Maple Leafs GM.
Yep.
It's man, poster boy. That's their claim to fame.
Yes, I don't think anyone else famous has ever gone there.
To Brock?
To Occidental. So, other than Barack Obama, that's the only guy I'm sure there's someone out there that I don't know about.
Yeah, it was actually, they did a good job recruiting. It looked sharp. I liked their colors.
The campus was really cool.
Yeah.
The campus was great. But I remember it was my freshman orientation was all about, the theme of freshman orientation was how to have good sex. I swear to God, the theme of freshman orientation, we got there, and they had a sex therapist who taught us how to have better sex. And they're handing out condoms in the dorm rooms.
Imagine a Mormon walks in and they're like, hey, here's how to do something better that you've never done before.
Yes, that's literally what it was. It was you want to do something really awesome that you've never done before, here's how to do it really well. And it's just, but I grew up Mormon, but I was never the super strict religious one. I kind of did it because my parents and friends did it, right? You're born into it, you do it.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, so it wasn't like I was offended by, the sex or the drinking or anything like that. I wasn't bothered by it. It was just so new to me, and I thought man, people really do this stuff. So that was that was the weird part about it.
What was the weird part about having to leave midway through university on a mission?
Yep. So yeah, I graduate high school. I do my 1 year of college playing baseball and basketball. Sucked at basketball, so I stopped. And then I finished the year out, and I had this opportunity to go play summer baseball in Texas. There was a scout who would come to the Occidental baseball games. So my thought was, I'm not going to go on a mission. I didn't really go to church at the time. I thought, I don't want to go on a mission. I want to go play some baseball. I got some good opportunities here. And then I go home for the summer and kind of being surrounded by friends and family that have all done missions. They're like, oh, you really should go on a mission. It's such an awesome experience. You'll still be able to play ball when you come back. So I decided to do it, and I just kind of thought it was going to be this quick little thing. I would come back and be just the same athlete that I was. But, in taking 2 years off, not only do you physically get out of shape, but mentally, you just, the desire to be this great baseball player and the recognition and the identity as an athlete, you kind of lose that. Mm-hmm. So when I came home, going to Corvallis, it was more just oh, this is, again, same thing with the mission. This is just kind of what you do. I grew up playing sports. I just keep playing sports. But I didn't have the passion for it that I had as a freshman at Occidental. I was oh, yeah, I'll play because it'll get me into college. But I don't really care to play professionally or anything. I just want to do it to get through school. So that was the weirdest part for me, was looking back, coming home and not having a passion for the thing that I was so passionate about prior to the 2-year mission,
Mm-hmm.
it's so weird to me that I was able to have that mentality shift.
And it wasn't just like one sport in particular that you lost the passion for. It just seemed like for you it was time off.
Yeah.
And you hadn't really thought about it. Your priorities had shifted for that time. And like,
Yes.
you're not supposed to be thinking about anything else, right?
Yeah, total priority shift. I mean, the thing you love about baseball, the thing that I loved about baseball at least was the camaraderie. Like, we became buddies through the Corvallis Knights, right? My favorite part about baseball is making friends. And then you like the recognition of being an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're out of that, and, I was, for a long time, I got such positive feedback from friends and family for being a missionary that I was able to find my identity and recognition in, like, being a really devout church member.
Mm.
And so I no longer cared for the athlete identity or the recognition of being an athlete. It was no longer important to me because I found that in the church. And then, within 12 months, and I stopped going to church, I really wanted to be an athlete again, but I had already, I'd already hurt my arm and was done. So,
well, I feel like hurting your arm came from going out, to your point.
Yes.
From 2 years off to then playing long pitch with Chase Kaplan,
Yes, you don't take 2 years off. That's what I learned. And if you take 2 years off, you have to be really deliberate about what you do when you come back. And I just assumed, like, this is kind of silly, but I honestly assumed because I went on a mission that I would come home and God would be like, oh, he's going to be even better. Like, I thought God was going to, like, make me better at baseball because I went and did a mission, right? But no, I come back and I just, not only was I not passionate, but like I said, physically, I just didn't have it. Like, I tried to jump right back into what I was doing before, and, you mentioned I'm playing long toss, 400 feet with Chase Kaplan 3 weeks after my mission. It's probably not the best idea.
I don't know. I just take a couple months off squatting and then go back and squat the same weight. No, it's the same idea, but
Exactly.
You did 2 years, and you're probably going to have a bit of struggles doing that. But you still were pretty highly touted at Corvallis that summer. Like, some contacts.
I had a really good first half of the summer before I got hurt.
Like, so context for the listeners, we were roommates in Corvallis with Marcia and Charlie Gilson. Shout out to them and their hospitality. We didn't take advantage of that summer the way we should have. But nonetheless, you came in because of that freshman season. You had done so well that first half of the summer. You were, like, people knew who you were despite the fact that you weren't pitching much. And I was known as the Canadian intern staying with Tommy. Yeah. Like, that was my designation.
I don't know about that, but that's pretty much it. I felt like, again, I had a couple really good games to start the season, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be just as good again. And then 3 months in, I can't even throw the ball.
But what was the actual injury?
So I went and got it. What's funny is I didn't know. I mean, because you and I lifted together a little bit, right? Like, we'd go lift. And we had lifted one day and we'd done biceps or something. And I just assumed, because my bicep would really hurt when I threw. And I was like, oh, man, I just crushed biceps yesterday. That's probably what it is. And so I just took a couple weeks off and then tried again, and it still hurt. And I ended up getting back to the University of Utah, still couldn't throw, 3 months later. And I went and got an MRI, and it was like, I guess my ulnar nerve, which runs down through your bicep and your forearm, had, like, popped out of place into a new spot.
Bet that felt good.
Yeah, and so, dude, the weird thing is I don't notice it at all. I never had surgery.
Okay.
I don't notice it at all unless I'm throwing. No other motion except for sometimes the behind-the-neck press.
Okay.
Will get me a little bit, but for the most part.
That's when you're doing 3 plates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just casual 315 on the behind-the-neck shoulder press. But no, anytime I do that or throw, I feel it. But, yeah, the doctor basically was like, we could do surgery, but there's not really a good way to do this that would make you able to throw.
Yeah.
Because they got to take the nerve and cut into your muscle and hide it. And he's like, if we cut into your muscle, you're not going to throw that hard anyway. So at that point, he kind of told me to bag baseball and do a finance degree.
How much did that hurt, or like what were the emotions going through your head at that moment? Because I know you've kind of come to terms of it. We were talking last night over dinner about, like, the what ifs.
Yes.
But, like, how does that resonate with you now and at the time?
It's a great question. In the moment it was kind of whatever, because, again, I had such a different mindset. I had this mindset of who I wanted to be within the context of a returned Mormon missionary in Utah. And I didn't have any sort of desire or goal really within baseball. So at the moment, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't until like 6 months after when, people are asking, you meet people and they say, hey, like I'm so-and-so, I do this, who are you? And you're kind of giving your personal elevator pitch. And, it used for the longest time, it was I'm a baseball player. I play college baseball. People thought that was really cool. So you kind of get this like swagger and pride of saying I'm a collegiate athlete. So the weirdest part was like 6 to 12 months after when I'm introducing myself to people and I no longer have anything to say that's interesting about me. I'm now just like this normal white kid from Utah who's getting a finance degree like everybody else. So that's when it became really hard. And then, now, again, I've come to terms with the difficulty and the odds of actually playing Major League Baseball at a recognizable level. But now the hard thing is just it's the what if, right? Like you see guys you played with that you think you were their caliber, and they're now playing professional baseball, and you think, well, if that guy played, I could have played. I could have been making that league minimum $700K a year and having an awesome time. So it's sometimes, the first 2 innings of any baseball game are the what if innings, and then innings 3 to 9, I just have a good time. But 1 and 2, I'm like, this pitcher's not that great.
You got to wait for the Budweiser to kick in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once the, my baseball game drink is the Arnold Palmer. Have you had the canned Arnold Palmer?
Yeah,
that's my
choice.
base. So as soon as I finish the Arnold Palmer in inning 2, then I'm like, this is a fun game.
Yeah. I'll accept the fact that I'm in the stands, not on the field.
Yes.
That's okay. I'll catch the foul ball and I'll look sick doing it.
I accept it at that point. No, I wouldn't catch the foul ball actually because I'm terrible at catching.
Okay.
You remember? You might remember this.
We did. We played a bit of catch,
I made you play catch with me because remember I couldn't really throw, and so I was like, I made Dave come to the field early with me.
Get the intern over here.
Yeah, I was like, dude, will you play catch with me so I can figure out what's going on with my arm? And we would play a little bit of catch, but yeah, I was never good at catching the ball. That's the reason I pitched. I couldn't catch and I couldn't hit. So
that was the highlight of my summer, or one of them for sure. Playing a little pitch.
Playing a little catch.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I got one collegiate at bat and I struck out looking.
Oh.
So I didn't even swing. I just bat on my shoulder, watched it go by. The kid threw me 3 fastballs. He knew. So that was it for my hitting career.
Dude, what do you think of the Los Angeles pitcher?
Shohei
Ohtani.
Dude, he's the biggest anomaly in baseball history.
Right?
To be that good at both, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because to understand hitting or pitching, it helps to understand the other.
Mm-hmm.
To be a good pitcher, it helps to understand the mindset of a hitter. So it makes sense mentally, but man, I just don't get it.
Right?
I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand hitting in general. The major league hitters hitting a baseball that's coming 90-plus miles an hour, moving different locations doesn't make sense to me. But to be able to do both pitching and hitting at a high level.
So if you were the deciding vote between Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, who would you be?
I'm a Yankees fan. That's a terrible question for me.
Even with the background of like what he's doing, like
dude, Aaron Judge, he's triple count. He's close to the Triple Crown. He's
keyword close.
Let me ask you this, since we're on the Aaron Judge topic. What do you think about the fact that he just broke the AL home run record, but he's still 12 off of Barry Bonds?
Yeah.
12 off of breaking Barry's record. So I see all this stuff on Twitter, people going back and forth about Barry Bonds being the true home run king, and then other people saying he's not clean, so it doesn't count.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, hey, I could shoot up a bunch of steroids right now and go win a natural bodybuilding competition.
Yeah.
Am I technically the winner of that competition under the rules? No. Did I cheat to win that? Yes. Do I deserve that title if I cheated to get that? Not in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand.
So you think Bonds cheated, so he shouldn't technically be considered the home run king because he took steroids?
It's a controversial take, but I don't like cheaters.
That's fair.
And like to me, you can put up whatever numbers, and who knows? Maybe this is just a biased opinion, and like I haven't had my eyes open to the world of sport and the fact that everyone's doping or everyone's going above and beyond. Like, who knows? I don't know. And like, maybe we'll find out over the next 10 years, like whether Aaron Judge might have been taking some extra stuff, right? Like, I don't know. You're the same size as him. Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah, he's got about 20 pounds on me though.
You're 6'7", 270, 260?
No, I'm like 6'7", 255, and I think he's 6'8", like 280.
Jeez, like
I
that's a big boy.
I think he's 280s, dude. So genetically gifted. I mean, they got to be testing that guy out the ass, right? Like, they have to test that guy every week.
You would think.
There's no way a guy that big is not getting tested all the time.
Now, you also can get around those tests.
True.
Right? Like, there's people on YouTube, more plates, more dates. Like, that guy will explain in detail how guys can get around tests. So,
yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think Aaron Judge deserves to be the home run king?
So this is what's hard for me is because I want him to be considered the home run king because I'm a Yankees fan and I like the story of Aaron Judge. So I want him to be. The one thing with baseball is that I think obviously steroids help, but you still have to be a ridiculously good hitter.
Yeah.
So my thing is my dad was watching the season that Barry Bonds hit the 73 home runs. My dad was pretty into that season. And the way he tells it is that he would have 4 at-bats in a game, and 3 at-bats he would get intentionally walked or at least pitched around. And in the 4th at-bat, he would get 1 good pitch. So he'd get 1 good pitch in the entire game, and he'd take it out. And so I don't know, like I'm torn because it's still so impressive, regardless of, you get on the juice, you hit the ball a little further. The ability to hit is still so crazy. So I'm torn. I don't know.
It's tough. The worst part is the fact that it really doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Like everyone has their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to it. And I don't know. Barry Bonds is going to hold that record, and it's going to be really tough for someone to beat that.
If it ever gets
what
broken.
Judge did this year was ridiculous.
It felt like he hit a home run every game.
Dude, I was looking at it. What is the second place was at like 37 or 39 home runs? Like,
yes. It felt like he hit a home run every single game. So if he's still 12 off, it's just hard for me to believe it gets broken.
So if the Blue Jays get past the Mariners, do you think they are able to take down your Yankees?
I don't know, dude. The Yankees have had such a good year that I want to say no. But every time I get too invested into Yankees playoff baseball, they lose. Like, every time I get really into it, it's like, dang it.
So I'm going to be chirping you if they're playing, so that way you get emotionally invested.
I'm going to be ignoring you. I'm going to ignore it. No, I get emotionally invested every year the playoffs come around. I'm a casual fan of any sport. I only like the playoffs.
Who was your athlete inspiration growing up?
I always loved Andy Pettitte.
Okay.
I loved Andy Pettitte, and I loved Mariano Rivera.
Oh.
The 2 great Yankee pitchers in my... I mean, obviously there's others, but for some reason I thought Andy Pettitte was a really cool dude. And he's a big guy like me, just an awesome pitcher. Seemed like he was salt of the earth. And then Mariano Rivera is obviously the greatest closer of all time.
Legend.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Mo. Did you have an athlete inspo?
Man, the greats. Steve Nash as a Canadian was so cool to see him play in the NBA. Smaller guy. I say that. He's the same size as me. But
For the NBA, that's
a white guy, right?
Yeah.
6'2", 6'3", just playing. He was from Victoria. I loved watching Vernon Wells play as a center fielder for the Blue Jays. He signed that 5-year, $125 million contract. That was a guy that I looked up to. Luongo, hockey goalie for Vancouver, Florida.
I was gonna say yours has got to be. You got to have a goalie and a golfer in there, don't you?
Yeah, and golfer. It'd be crazy for me to not say Tiger as just because of his dominance when I was growing up.
Yeah. Tiger minus the personalized stuff is awesome.
Right?
He's so cool.
Have you watched the doc?
Yeah.
His document?
Yes.
Crazy.
Dude. He is one of the most phenomenal athletes to ever exist. I mean, you talk about the guys like Shohei Ohtani, I think Wayne Gretzky takes the goat of all goats cake just because of you've heard all those stats.
Interesting.
You've heard all those stats, right?
Yeah, I love hearing that from an American.
Isn't he the goat of all goats? Wasn't he so much ridiculously better than everybody else that it's if you took away all of his goals one year just on assists, he'd have more points, double the points of anybody else. There's a bunch of crazy Wayne Gretzky stats like that.
Yeah, he and his brother hold the title for most points of any brother duo, and I'm pretty sure his brother scored 4 points.
Yes,
in the NHL.
you hear stuff like that.
Snowbird is sick though, man.
It is cool.
It's beautiful here.
It's one of the best resorts. I would have said it was the best resort growing up, but I've changed my opinion because it's crowded. So now I'm Snow Basin, and I think the terrain is similar.
You're just an all-around athlete, eh? Just top to bottom. Was there anything you didn't play growing up?
Football.
American
football, sorry. For the for the year.
You would have been a sick wide receiver.
Dude, no, because here's my issue with football is I'm a total wuss. Like I was big, but I was soft, and so I never had like the aggressive nature that you need to play football.
Okay.
I developed it a little bit later in like junior, senior year in basketball, and you kind of get the FU mentality as a pitcher on the mound. But it wasn't until I was almost a senior that I developed like the mentality and aggressive nature to be good at a sport like football. Growing up, it was like I didn't want to get hit. You know, I played football 1 year at like 9, and there was a kid on my team named Jacob Fitzumanu, who, you know, Utah's got a really strong Polynesian culture. And at 9 years old, this kid had a beard. He looked like he was 14. And it's like that scene out of Benchwarmers when they give the – have you seen Benchwarmers?
Yeah.
Where the guy has like the picture of himself and says, I am 12, and there's a $100 bill in there. I swear that was Jacob Fitzumanu. And he hit me so hard one day, I thought my helmet didn't work. And that's when I realized football was not for me. It was like this kid hit me, and I was seeing like stars like a cartoon. And I was like, yeah, this isn't my sport. You know, I'll finish this season out, and I'm probably going to call it. So football was the one thing that I never could. So I guess that probably includes rugby. I couldn't do that either.
Yeah. I played football for 1 year also. Grade 10.
Yeah?
Broke my wrist 6 games in. That was it.
Yeah.
It was 0 for 2 for football.
Once you get hurt, did you ever try like rugby or anything like that?
Didn't even try. It was huge at our high school
Rugby's
too.
popular in Canada.
It's huge. Yeah. I was asked to do it a bunch. I was kind of similar to you though, man. I had hockey, I had golf, I had basketball. Like, I was like aggressive in the softer sports. That's the way I describe it.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
I was aggressive for basketball, but aggressive for basketball is not anything for football.
Yo, let's talk about this summer that we had in Corvallis just a
Okay.
little bit more because I wanna highlight it. Like Marsha's still in contact with my parents, talking stories about making them salmon.
That's so funny. Dude, I still make salmon the way you make it, by the way. Just
Really?
speaking of things I took from that summer. You taught me all these weird, like you had me make it with like lemon juice and tomatoes. You had me make it with brown sugar and syrup, which is so Canadian, I can't even believe it. That's the most Canadian shit I've ever heard of, is that you made me make it with syrup. But I still do it. Like when I cook salmon, I do it one of those two ways because you had me cook it that way in Corvallis. But anyways, so yeah, we're staying with Marsha and Charlie Gilson at the Pheasant Court Winery.
Yeah. Still have one of those labels up on my bookshelf. One of their labels from the wine.
They gave us a bottle when we left, and I kept mine. I still got it.
Have you?
Yeah, I never drank it because I kept it as a
memento.
Yeah, it's like a memento. It's a little trophy that I had from that summer.
We wasted that summer. We could have drank so much wine with them.
Dude, I think back about it all the time. I was so my mentality was on so many other things. I was focused on anything but like baseball. It's like I wanted to kind of go home. I wanted to meet girls. And we should have spent so much more time hanging out with Charlie and Marsha, just drinking wine.
Isn't that weird, though? Like, you're in Corvallis for the summer to play baseball.
Yeah. You've
got this incredible opportunity. You're, like, highlighted, touted in a Knights organization that's, like, the best in the WCL, frankly.
Yeah.
And, like, Dan Siegel's hooking us up. We're wearing Nike swag. Like, team's decked out. Should have been an incredible opportunity to have all these guys together.
Yes.
And I don't know, looking back, I'm like, man, we could have had such a blast.
Well, that's what's so funny is I still would say it's one of the best summers of my life. Like, I still had a fantastic summer. I look at guys like Chase Kaplan, Grant Goodman, Nick Kale, like that
Chris
whole group,
Burkholder.
Burkholder, Stephen Kwan. Like, those guys were all such good dudes, and we'd have fun times. Like, we'd go float the river. But it was like at 50% capacity, we still had one of the best summers ever. So what if we had really taken advantage of it to 100%?
Yeah.
We would have had the best summer ever. And that's why I think at some point I'm going to have to go visit Marsha and Charlie.
Well, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it on the way back up.
Because you guys are doing it. You guys are going to see them, right?
Yeah, you'll come.
Yeah.
You'll be there.
I'd drive to Philomath for that, dude. In a heartbeat. I still got to, I feel like, I told you guys this, but I feel like I didn't leave on the best foot with Marsha and Charlie. I think they liked me. I mean, we kept in touch for a little bit, but I had a girl over to their house, and I wasn't supposed to, and I lied about it the next day. So, and they totally knew, and so I lied about it like through my teeth, looking them in the eyes, knowing they knew. I just lied about it because I was like, I'm leaving today anyway. What's the big deal?
And now you're just broadcasting it to everyone who listens.
Broadcasting it to everyone who listens to this.
But that's okay because you know what? That's progression. That's growth.
The first step, right?
That's what we like to highlight here on the Athletes Podcast is how people grow, develop, become better human beings. I think that summer, I grew a lot, in part because of the people that were around, the atmosphere, like seeing what Oregon State University looked like in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, to me, as a Canadian coming down to the U.S. at a Div 1 school with West Coast League baseball being played every other day, like, that was a cool experience. And I think, like, for a lot of the athletes, players that were doing it, it was just like an extension of baseball, no big deal. But to me, like, that was the next step as far as moving towards professional sport.
Sure.
Right? Like,
yes,
merchandise, food and beverage. They had Knocking Point Wines there. Shout out to Andrew Harding. Like,
they did, yeah.
Right? Like, that was a whole little process that was going on at Corvallis Knights HQ that I don't think a lot of people recognize the business and the organization that they've got running there.
It's hard to explain summer ball to people because it just sounds like a little, like, dinky league that you play in. But summer ball in college baseball is a big deal. I mean, that's where a lot of kids meet scouts and get drafted, is playing summer baseball. You know, because you only get so many days per year with your coach. And so they send you to these intercollegiate leagues in the summer where you play with kids from other colleges. And that's, like, you get a lot of recognition and scouting done at those. So it's a big deal, and it is really cool. And that's, you know, one of the things, kind of speaking of that summer, and I guess you could say squandering it a little bit. I think I squandered the baseball for sure because I didn't care that much. And I think we squandered the opportunity to just have a banging time.
Yeah.
But that summer, I look back on as such a learning experience because I've decided that I will never squander another opportunity. Like, I think about that summer all the time and how, like, the girl I was dating at the beginning of it, like, she was really, you know, she wanted me to call her every night instead of going and hanging out with the guys. And I always tell myself, like, I will never do that again. Like, I will never waste an opportunity to have an awesome time with good people ever again. So
we both spent what was the cumulative amount of time that we spent on the phone with our girlfriends at the time? Both exes.
Oh my God!
Now.
Yes, we both did.
Dude, it was disgusting.
Yes,
it was disgusting.
We would talk. This is how we bonded.
Yes,
was we were like, man, I really would love to be out hanging out with the guys, but my girlfriend wants to FaceTime.
An hour plus a day.
Yeah,
it was gross.
Yes. Oh man, I forgot that you were going through the same thing with me. We were in the trenches together.
I don't even know what the Gilson's Wi-Fi bill looked like, but we were maxing out that capacity.
Well, that's the funny thing is, so, and again, I think, you know, the mission too, but I think part of my mentality coming home and not wanting to play baseball was that I wanted to go marry a nice Mormon girl. Like, I was ready to get married, have kids, be a good Mormon, like, be a bishop, whatever it was. And so, in a way, like, too much focus on girls really does. Like, I had a pitching coach growing up who'd always say there's 3 things that are going to ruin your pitching career. He's a scout for the Chicago White Sox. His name was Howard Nakagama.
No big deal.
He would always say 3 things are going to ruin your pitching career. And you want to guess what they are?
Women.
Yes.
Injuries.
He actually didn't say injuries, weirdly.
Okay. And third one I'm going to say is distractions, i.e. like drugs, alcohol.
Yep. He said
vices.
Girls, drugs, or bad grades are going to ruin your baseball career.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Injuries is probably a better one than bad grades.
I just assumed, you know.
Yeah, because that actually does ruin baseball.
Yeah.
That actually literally ruins your career. So that's
I figured, speaking from experience, like,
yep, injuries.
Dude, 6'7", 255, like, that what if is definitely real, and I think, like, dude, since the time we chatted, since the time we were together in Corvallis, you've put on, what, an extra 30 pounds?
Yeah, that's probably 220.
Like, you're more of an athlete now than you were then.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
This is the first time we've ever done something like this, though.
Like an outdoor one?
Yeah. You're the first, man.
You got to find someone to do one in Zion. Go up to the top of Angels. You'd have to carry the equipment, though. That'd suck.
Yeah.
We
can't get the truck up there?
Yeah. No. Definitely not. No way.
One of the other things we should talk about is your buddy who you brought up last night. The push-off. We're in Utah. MJ.
Yeah.
Was it, for those listening, as a proud Utah Ute, as someone who's grown up in the state, how heartbreaking is that for Jazz fans?
Dude, I was young. Like, I was like 4 or 5 when it happened, so I don't remember it clearly. But it's like for the next 10 years, whenever you talk Jazz basketball, it's all you hear about. And they had a couple good teams. You know, they had like the Darren Williams area where they were pretty good. They'd go to the Western Conference Finals, and it would always get brought up every year in the playoffs of like he pushed off. There's like merchandise sold about the famous MJ push off in was it like the 97 finals or something? And I always assumed,
Great year.
I always assumed he pushed off because that's what you hear growing up. And they came out with that documentary, The Last Dance, and they just detail that part of the story so much, and you clearly see he just didn't push off. And so that was a little bit. That was a talking of culture shock. That was a weird one when you realize MJ didn't actually push off. They just beat us.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, man, now I have no claim to, like, you kind of want to claim that the Jazz would have won the finals that year, but yeah, the push off didn't happen.
It's just like how I would have been in the NHL if I had trained a little harder growing up.
Yeah, you know what? The what ifing, this kind of carries us. It's a good, like bow in the what ifing yourself. Sometimes it's fun to do. Sometimes you need to do it. Like, I'm sure, Phoenix, you probably do this all the time too. You what if yourself of like, man, it would have been so cool. But, at the end of the day, you got no idea what would have happened. I'm really happy with where my life is now. So it's like, how can you regret the things that led you here? And I read this quote in a book, actually really recently. There's a book I really like called A Gentleman in Moscow. It's by a guy named Amor Towles. And it's about this guy who gets put on house arrest for like his whole life.
Oof.
And it's kind of how he deals with it. And one of his quotes in there is something about imagining how things would be if your circumstances were different is the surest route to madness. Like, going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that quote all the time. Is like imagining how my life would have been if I didn't go on a mission, or if I had, not gotten hurt when I came back, if I had played professional baseball. Like, imagining how that would have played out, it's just such a fruitless endeavor because it didn't happen.
Literally the biggest waste of energy you could possibly do.
It's the biggest waste of energy you could possibly have. And so, the thing, I only get mad about it when I think about it because I'm mad at myself for caring.
Yeah.
So it's just a fruitless endeavor. And like, dude, there's so many other things to life. Sports only last you so long.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, we all get old. We all get fat and old. And I watched that. You seen the Nolan Ryan documentary?
No.
So there's a documentary called Facing Nolan, and you see Nolan Ryan now, like arguably the greatest pitcher of all time, and he's just like kind of an old fat guy in Texas who's a grandpa living on a farm. And it's like, sports are really cool while you're doing them, but there's just a lot more to life, and worrying about what could have and should have been.
Yeah.
It's just totally pointless. It doesn't make you any happier. It doesn't change anything. And there's a lot of other parts of life to enjoy. There's wineries in Philomath, Oregon to visit. So,
dude, that was one of the things I really appreciated about that summer. The limited amount of time we chatted was you did have a unique, calm demeanor and perspective to life. And I think that's only expanded over the past 5 years probably. You mentioned books that you read. I know you read a ton.
Yeah, I like to read a lot.
What would be some suggestions for people for books that you've read that you enjoy?
Dude, the hard thing about that question is that, so my dad's a philosophy/English major. So
that makes so much more sense.
All the books growing up that I read were like, I was reading Charles Dickens and like Leo Tolstoy, which are classic books and they're amazing. But it's hard to recommend Charles Dickens or Leo Tolstoy to the average person because they're kind of dense and they're awesome books. But I would say Amor Towles, the guy I just mentioned, is really good. John Irving has really good books. Like, he's a newer kind of writer. And then there's one of my favorite books I've ever read is there's one called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Have you heard of that book?
No.
It's a true story. It's about this guy, and it's basically his trip across the country on motorcycles with his son.
Okay.
And it's kind of a philosophy, life book, and he compares life to the art of maintaining your motorcycle cross country. And it is an amazing book. So if you haven't read that one, that's one that I think everybody should read.
We need to talk about your fitness, nutrition, health, because you've progressed significantly. We're going to attribute a small percentage of that to Mind Pump Media, but the other 99%, what's happening?
I'd give them more than 1%. I'd give them, because I always loved it. I loved working out and somewhat eating healthy regardless, but I didn't know what I was doing until I started listening to Mind Pump. So I'd give them more. I'd give them 50% of the credit for giving me the information. The other 50% is me for having the love for it.
Right.
But yeah, I basically, once I stopped playing baseball, I basically replaced all of my athletic endeavors with weightlifting and fitness. And at first it was kind of you want to look buff, you want to get girls kind of thing. And then you end up falling in love with it for the mental benefits. You feel better, you have more confidence. It's just a super good habit all around. So I would say my life now, this sounds weird, but to say your life revolves around fitness, but like my days are planned out around my health and fitness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, when am I taking my supplements? When am I eating? What am I eating? When am I going to the gym? What am I doing at the gym kind of thing? That's like my whole day.
I love it. You were kind of like that summer too. We were into it
together all the time. We'd go, you would squat, which I never wanted to do, but we'd go to the gym at the same time.
Yeah.
Just do different things.
Yeah. I was ripping in the Prius. Shout out to my mom for holding it down for me that summer. Yeah, I looked good going into the gym with that.
Dude, you probably lifted more weight than I did though.
Yeah, but I was just
strong. I mean,
I was just throwing back food, and like I wasn't a good clean 205 or whatever I was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little chunky monkey.
Yeah, it's hard to clean bulking is really hard. Like I went to, like you said, when we were in Corvallis, I was like 220, 230. I'm now 250, 260.
No big deal.
That bulk was not always clean.
Yeah.
I've now, I'd say through Mind Pump, I think I've traded a lot of what was the fat part of the bulk for some muscle, thanks to them, and stayed at about 250, 255. But it's hard to, dude. It's hard to bulk.
Hardest thing ever. So what supplements are you taking? What are you eating to get like that additional 30 pounds over the past 3 years?
So, yeah, I used my Fitness Pal to track for a little bit and just kind of establish like a maintenance calorie level. I'll jump on there for a couple weeks at a time every few months just to make sure I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
But, obviously it's a lot of protein, right? It's a lot of like the chicken, steak, pork.
Are you hitting 250 every day? Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Like a pound per body weight?
Yep. Yeah. So I get about 250 grams of protein per day. Most of it's whole food. Like, I have 5 or 6 eggs in the morning. I have ground beef every morning. Usually have like some oats with protein powder. And then I supplement with protein a little bit. Like I'll just drink like a Fairlife drink and have a bar.
Yeah.
So those are like 50 of my grams per day. But there's little things you can do, like the super coffees. We talked about super coffee. There's 10 grams right there, and they're delicious. It's caffeine.
No free ads.
Yeah. No free ads.
No.
I should have had my coffee.
It's okay. We missed the boat. It's okay next time.
But I love super coffee. I love another Mind Pump sponsors, Paleo Valley. They have like these little beef sticks. I take those on the go. And then Costco's got they've got like little like packs of chicken that are 20 grams, like pre-cooked chicken breast bites. And I'll take 2 of those with me to work. That's 40 grams.
Yeah.
So actually getting enough protein in the day actually has never been that hard for me if you prioritize it.
Yeah.
Like if that's the first thing you eat every day, the first thing you eat for each meal, I do that a lot.
That's the unlock, dude. People just don't prioritize it. And it's more satiating than everything else. So then you're not hungry for those sugary carbs afterwards.
Yes. I prioritize it, and I keep mostly protein in the house.
Yeah.
So if I want a snack or a treat or something that's not like a protein based or has some protein, I have to go to the store and get it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's kind of like one of the rules. I put some distance between myself and snack food. So the final question as we lean back, what was
the final question? Well, you're a fan of the show.
Yep. Been waiting.
The way we wrap up every episode on the Athletes Podcast is we ask our guests what their biggest piece of advice would be for the next generation of athletes.
Yeah, I think, we've kind of covered this, and we've talked about this last night at dinner, today, off air and stuff. I think, obviously, for me, it's enjoying the present, enjoying what you're doing. It's invaluable to what if yourself and think about how things could be otherwise, whether that's when you're in the sport or after. When you're in the sport, you what if yourself and think, oh, man, if the refs had done this or the umpire had done this or this had gone my way or that had gone my way, it's not helpful. At the end of the day, you can only control what you can control, and what you can control is being present in the moment and enjoying what you're doing. And it's like at some point, you can't play anymore. No matter who you are, at some point, you're done, and you don't want to look back and think, man, we had an awesome opportunity that summer and we didn't maximize it. You never want to think that because it's a terrible feeling. So, I just think really focusing on trying to enjoy what you're doing. Don't think about, man, I wish I was at home hanging out with girls, or I wish I didn't have to go do this, or I wish I didn't have to practice. Just enjoy every minute of it, because one day it's gone and you're going to wish you had.
Yeah, and I think just those are wise words to live by. And I use that as fuel, just like the way you mentioned it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to ever miss an opportunity. So that's why we're here today. Tommy, I appreciate your time, man, more than you know.
Thank you guys. This is so awesome that you guys are doing this. And this is it's fun. It's crazy. I feel like I don't fit in with the other caliber of guests you guys get. You guys get awesome guests, so this is really cool.
Dude, this is a part of the AP Tour, and you are the definition of an athlete. And yeah, look forward to seeing. Hey, you're probably gonna be like 285 by the time we chat next time.
I hope when we go to Kelowna in December, I'm gonna be 10 pounds heavier at least.
There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start bulking. Clean though.
Yeah.
Thanks to Mind Pump.
Clean bulk with Mind Pump.
Yeah.
Even though they cut my intro out.
Yeah. Sal, any thoughts on that before we let you go?
Yeah, they cut my intro out. Who does that? My live question.
Savage.
Savage move.
We'll get him back.
Yeah, we will. I'll get back on there.
Yeah. There you go. Appreciate your time, Tommy.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye. Tommy Lalli.
Of course, we got the 16-ton back for the last question. Dude.
Third time's the charm, man. This guy won't stop. I think he wants to be interviewed. That's why. He sees what we're doing.
He looked like an athlete. It was a big dude. He looked athletic. You might want to get him on the
Dude,
pod.
he definitely bicep curls.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that one.